Let's take a look at the first lab to get an idea of what we need to do with Packet Tracer and kind of what these things are asking for. We probably already had a little bit of this, but in the activities themselves are the descriptions. You can drag it to make it bigger, whatever you want to do with it. The number of pages are down here, go from page to page. Percent completion is down here, but this one will give us the instruction, does not include an addressing table because you're going to do the addressing table. It says create a small topology. We're going to create some subnets using the 172.20.0.0 with a 24-bit subnet mask network. And then we're going to take that network, the base network, and subnet it further. So the first thing, though, is to connect the network up. Router 1's fast Ethernet 00 connects to host 1's fast Ethernet port. So we'll go into our cables here, and we're going to take, in this case it said that we're going from an Ethernet to an Ethernet, did it not? Fast Ethernet 00 to the host fast Ethernet port. So fast Ethernet 00 will take a crossover fast Ethernet 00 to the fast Ethernet port. It's always good when the green lights come on. If the green lights don't come on, then you may want to look and see. Red lights generally mean that we've done something that we really shouldn't. Router 1's fast Ethernet connects to the switch fast Ethernet port. The other ones say 2 and 3, so I'm going to put this one on 1. I don't know if he's graded this or not, but fast Ethernet 01, and that's going to be, for instance, we're going from a NIC to a switch. It's going to be a crossover cable, and then we had 2 to 2 and 3 to 3, as I recall, right? Those will again be straight through cables. Fast Ethernet 2, fast Ethernet, fast Ethernet, 2, fast Ethernet. When we get into switches, we'll look at this activity. The amber or the orange lights here is a process called spanning tree checking to see if there are any loops. Takes about 50 seconds for that to happen. We'll learn how to turn that off as we go through these things. In order now, when I click on this thing, it says the config is locked. So in order to connect to my router, I need to go in here and connect the RS-232, the serial port, to the console port. Once that happens, I can go to the desktop, click on the terminal. These are the defaults: bits per second, 9600, 8 data bits, no parity, 1 stop bit, and flow control, none. Go into here, and now we're connected to our router. The passwords, Cisco. Enable mode allows us to get into a step further to go to configuration mode. Where we are right now is in user mode. User mode allows us to look at stuff. We can't really change anything. For this activity, you're going to have to assign IP addresses. After you do the subnetting, determine which subnet that the interfaces should be on. In order to get to configuration mode, I need to go into what's commonly called enable mode, or user exec mode, I think is the correct term for it. Enable mode is what you'll hear it called a lot because you type enable or en in order to get there. And again, the password is Cisco. Notice we have the pound sign. The pound sign tells us that we can now go further into the configuration. To actually make changes, we got to go one more level down into the configuration mode, and the shortcut there is just config T, configure terminal, because we're configuring it from the terminal. We've connected to it through the terminal. In order to set the IP addresses, we would first have to specify the interface. To find out the interface, since I'm already down one level, if I use the show command here, it's going to tell me that it's not a valid command at this level, and it's not. We could go back up to the enable mode, or we can use the do command, which is kind of a handy one. It allows you to do commands that aren't legal in the area where you are. So we could do show IP interface brief and get the commands, and we find that these things already have some addresses on them. They are configured. I think that what we really want to do for these is just go ahead and calculate the addresses and put them in a table out here on the packet tracer file and upload it. If we wanted to change the addresses, we would just use the command interface fast Ethernet 0/0 and then IP address, and if we do the question mark, ABCD, the IP address, and then the subnet mask. One of the things that you will have to do, they're already up in this one. By default, all interfaces are down. And once we get done with that, we'll just stay here on the interface. We use the no shut down command. If we do the tab, we can get the shut down, but the no shut command, which tells the interface to start. But again, by default, they're all off. So for this exercise, connecting the ports together and then putting the addresses on this thing, one of the other things that you can do as you go through these exercises, notice we started out with 0%. I'm now at 59%. It will grade it as it goes. So we've done the connection. The next one tells us what the subnets are that we need to use. And he says start with subnet D. The trick to doing this sort of subnetting, and what we're doing here is using a subnet, but we're breaking it up into smaller subnets of unequal length. What you've done before is you've subnetted and all the subnets had the same number of addresses. Now the subnets are going to have different number of addresses, and we can do that as long as we don't reuse something. So the first one has subnet D. Let's see if we can work some of these out. Let me get a notepad started here, maybe. The first one, let's use our friend here. So subnet D, actually let's make this bigger fonts. Subnet D, C, B, and A. So the first one says start with subnet D. And subnet D has 125 hosts. What's the smallest number of hosts that we can get in there? 128 is going to be the mass number, but the number of bits to get 125 hosts, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, exactly, uses 7 bits. So that's going to leave us a subnet mask of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And the network is going to go from 0 to 127. The network address to the broadcast address of that network. The next network is going to start at what? The next network, the C network, is going to start at, let me get over here, 128, which is going to be the next network address. 127 is the broadcast, 1 plus the broadcast is the network address. So 128, and on it we want 47 hosts. So to get to there, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. That's going to bring us from that to the broadcast going to be what, now 191? Is that right? 191. You notice that on this one we had 128 addresses. On this one we had 64 addresses. For the next one, how many addresses do we want? 6. So it means we have to have 2, 4, 8, 3 bits. If we add 8 here, we're going to start with 192. It's going to be the next network address, right? And that's going to go to, what, 190 what? 199, because if we added 8 to 192, we get to 200, which will be the next network address. After that, we want to go down to this one, and on this one we only want 2 addresses, which is 2 bits, 4. So this one will go to 200, 203. Is that right? 1, 2, 3. will be the broadcast address. And we can look at you can configure the subnet masks based on what we have here. And then we'll go over here and it says host 1 will use the first host address in subnet A. The first host address in subnet A is 201. Is that true? And then host 2 will use the first host address in subnet B. The first in subnet B is going to be 193, and all these are going to be the 172.20.0. whatever these are. And then you can go on and assign the addresses based on that. That's the basically how to do that, and how to do and this is a variable length subnet mask. Again, no different in the process than you used when they were all the same. It's just that before we've done subnetting, all subnets had the same number of hosts. And this one, we're going to break it down into different sizes in order to use that. What we can't do in these is reuse addresses. You have to blank them out. What you're basically doing is taking, let me see if I can do this with a spreadsheet, taking a bunch of addresses, the whole subnet, and we'll do using part of it to, what we're doing is taking, let's say that this is our whole subnet, and we will make it yellow. And then we're going to break that subnet down. We're going to take the first bits of it, that was the one that we used 128 addresses, and make it the purple subnet. And then we're going to have a little bit smaller one and make it the orange subnet. And then even smaller, make it the blue subnet. And then the last one was a very small one. We'll make it the red subnet. So we've used the addresses. You can't reuse them. So all of these addresses that were in the purple one, the 0 to 128 network, would be addresses 1 through 126, because 127 would be the broadcast. This one would then start, so this would go from 0 to, and 127 be the broadcast, right? So the next one will start with 128 and go to, where did it go to? 128 goes to 191, to 191. The next one's going to start at 192. Notice these are network addresses, and if you write them out in binary, you're going to find that the host bits are all zeros in them. And the 191 goes to, or the 192 goes to the 199 address. The next address in here is going to be 200. It was very small. We'll put one over here. The 200, it was very small, went to 203 would have been the broadcast address in it. And then we still have some addresses left over if we had other ones that we needed to use. So the only thing we've done is take the same subnetting techniques that you've been using, writing it in binary, and using all of the things that you know about subnetting, and just making the subnets different sizes and making them all the same size. That is kind of a wrap on the first one. It's different. As we get into this thing, we'll get more and more and more into the commands. That's what a lot of the individual labs are about, is to doing individual commands. But in order to do the addresses, to get the addresses off of this thing, and they kind of get a little bit different in other places. If we just did this thing, just do no IP address, do show IP interface brief, and then this one it says unassigned, it doesn't have an IP address. So to make them go away, to put your own addresses on there, just use the no IP address command in order to do that. Are there any questions? I know it's a little bit all blurry right now, that's why I'm recording so you can go back and watch it. Stop it and rerun it if you need to do it. Hopefully this will be a little bit useful as you go through this exercise. Thanks for watching.